Well, this is a bit different because I haven't managed to work myself up into full hyperactive mode because, like many of you, for me now, it's 5 o'clock Eastern time where I am not intending to
It's normal.
Yeah, you should definitely have a cocktail at this time, Nick.
Well, exactly. I'm in Soho in New York, hence the bad lighting, because you can't really light a New York hotel room. Just down the road from me, Mark Tuberty in Brooklyn, my second chance to see Mark of the week. And of course, on a show where we celebrate the brightest young talent that television has to offer in the sport of horse racing. Yes, she was the future once, Brittany Earton.
Oh no, I'm no longer the future. Does that mean I'm old hat?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, that's what you mean. That's what you mean. No, I'm really excited about our guest, who I have the pleasure of working with quite often. Andie Biancone will be joining us in just a bit. But I'm going to be honest, you guys. I am feeling very left out.
Why?
Just going to put it out there. I was not able to hang out with either of you two recently, and I'm just a little sad about it.
Well,
I know. I was going to say, having worked at the 21 Club for 8 years and now Baccarat, I see a lot of beautiful, famous people. I don't get too starstruck that often, but I have to admit, I got pretty starstruck this past Tuesday night when Mr. Nick Luck graced me with his presence at the bar at Baccarat after he went to my old restaurant because I'm so bad on Instagram that I haven't updated it. So with infinite patience, Nick went to two of my prior and current jobs just to come say hi. But it was such a pleasure to see you. I did miss having you there, Brittany, so we have to make sure that happens on the next trip.
100%. But Nick, do you not pay attention to our show? How did you not know Baccarat was...
That's okay. I'm going to accept blame. I need to stay more current on my social media.
I was confused and jet lagged. I just looked at Mark's Instagram and it said the name of the bar that he used to work in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. So without thinking, I just got in the Uber, went there, and Mark had said, there's a security guard downstairs. I thought, okay, fancy for a rooftop bar in Brooklyn. There's a, we're getting the whole of my Instagram feed. There we go. And I had this whole conversation with this nice lady about how I knew Mark from Cocktails and Conversations, and I was going to go up and he had a seat at the bar. Great. She said, your name's not down, but that's fine. Went up there to talk to this guy, Dwayne, behind the bar. He made me a cocktail. I waited a little while. Where's Mark coming in? Mark hasn't worked here for 3 months. So down I went, in another Uber, across the Midtown, and my word, I mean, the bar in Baccarat is spectacular and is now being marshaled by our very own Mark Tuberty. So that was quite a thrill. And I was made two of the most exquisite cocktails.
Thank you.
So the first one that Nick had was actually, we drench Demerara sugar in Angostura bitters, and then the guys actually turn that into cotton candy. So when you're served the drink, you basically have this fluff of cotton candy on top, and then the old fashioned is poured over that and it melts into the drink. Wow. So that's the first one that Nick had. And then he got a little sneak peek of our fall menu, which is launching this Monday. I was mentioning to you, Brittany, that it's inspired by the artwork in the bar. So not plugging that, but I'm just saying it was great to have you there, Nick, and just to be able to actually talk face to face, because we always have thousands of miles and a screen between us. So
I love it. You two looked very sharp, I must say, in that photo. So I am jealous, but also really glad that you guys were able to connect there. I had the pleasure of hanging out with Mr. Nick Luck this weekend as well. We were both in the cold confines of Aqueducts, and it was raining sideways. But we did see some good performances. Life is Good, not necessarily as authoritative as we had all expected, but you interviewed the Connections. They didn't seem too concerned.
In many ways, I feel like the pressure's off them, really, because no one's really expecting Life is Good to beat Flightline.
Right.
But they've clearly got a plan. I sense that Todd Pletcher had nowhere near squeezed the lemon. And we were talking to Aaron afterwards, and he was saying that the horses almost felt like they'd done too good a job getting him switched off and relaxed. Yeah. So they're going to be clearly encouraged that he's now being able to settle, almost spit the bridle out, and he'll get that 1.25 miles really well when he comes to Keeneland. And also because he has got the blazing early pace, they're just going to use it. So I don't think he'll beat him, but I think that Connections were quite satisfied with what they saw, even though to our eye, it was rather uninspiring.
Right.
And the track was pretty horrible as well.
Yeah.
It had got very sloppy by then.
Yeah. Can we talk about the Lucas Classic though? Hot
Oh,
Rod Charlie. Oh my God! And first strike, that was a beautiful, beautiful performance and just a beautiful race to watch.
I mean, you had two horses battling it out, and the funny part is we could only hear it because the race was obviously shown during the NBC broadcast, but we didn't have televisions with NBC on. It was just the track feed at Aqueduct. So we could only hear what was happening.
Yeah.
You heard Travis Stone call in, down the stretch. He said, and here comes the Derby winner, Rich Strike. Yeah. So in my mind, I'm thinking he's going right on by. And then Hot Rod Charlie battles back. And so it was obviously a really, really exciting race. It's been a touch controversial since then, but take nothing away from those two runners. They really poured it out there. I don't know if Rich Strike is going to go to the Breeders' Cup Classic, though. He is. Okay.
He is.
I wasn't sure off of what I read.
If you listen to, quick plug, if you listen to my podcast today, Nick Luck Daily Podcast, you will hear a 10-minute interview with Eric Reed.
Okay.
To whom I apologize for saying I thought the horse was a one-hit wonder, and he was actually pretty delightful in response. But he talked extensively about Sonny Leone's riding, and he wasn't trying to excuse it. And he said he deserved the punishment, but he said it's happening a lot. He wasn't going to go overboard about it, and he was in no mind to take him off the horse. So if you listen to that, he gives a pretty thorough explanation. He thinks they'll sit him a little bit closer in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Well, he was able to do so in that race, so that should be interesting. Breeders' Cup 22, yes, it is just around the corner. What are you most excited for? Send in your responses. What's up, Nick?
Yeah, I was going to say Trisha Hill's been on. Did Rich Strike's saddle slip? Well, after a fashion, Trisha, it did, but that was only because I think Sonny was leaning one way so hard that forced the tack to adjust, and then the horse has gone with him, and then he's decided that he'll basically try and ride Hot Rod Charlie at the same time.
Well, I can't wait for what the Breeders' Cup Classic holds because, I mean, we've just named 4 horses out of the, maybe 12 to 14 that we'll get in the starting gate. It's very, very exciting. How about this weekend? I couldn't believe it because I thought last year we had a lot of win-in your in races. There are 14 win-in your in races this weekend. Whoa.
Yes, you and I will be at Keeneland. The win-in your in races actually begin on Friday with the Alcibiades Stakes for 2-year-olds, but they crack on all the way through Saturday and Sunday. We'll be on CNBC both days, and it's the last round really of Breeders' Cup Challenge Series races.
The last hurrah. Did you say that?
Exactly,
Also from Santa Anita, there are some pivotal win-in your in races over there in terms of 2-year-olds. Some really nice 2-year-olds out there. There's a daughter of Justify named Justique. She's running in the Grade 2 Chandelier Stakes. She was very visually impressive. The speed figure wasn't all that strong, but visually she was very impressive on debut. So Cave Rock also in the American Pharaoh. Lots of great racing action, which we continually say, but this is our final remote show.
Yeah.
I
Season 3 kind of flew by.
Really? Huh?
Season 3 flew by. I mean, I know we didn't do as many episodes, but it's really kind of been a blur. So gearing up for season 4. I'm gonna pull a Nick Luck.
I love it. But wait, I mean, Mark, we need the book. We need to
make this book happen. Yeah. When we think about the sheer number of recipes that we've done here, I haven't counted them, but we have to be north of 60, right? Because we were doing 2 recipes per show in the first season.
Yeah.
So it's just a wealth of I think, great cocktail recipes, but more importantly, and Nick and I were talking about this when we met up in New York, is that I think some of the beautiful moments that we've had on this show with guests where the guards came down a little bit, they were able to open up to us about any number of different things, either in their career or personal lives. I think this has really been a special experience. And I think the book has to be an encapsulation of all of that, not just cocktail recipes, but the beautiful experiences that we've had with really just legends of the horse racing industry.
Well said. I love that. We should encapsulate it maybe with some quotes, whatnot. Speaking of, before we bring in our special guest, what are you making tonight?
Well, if you can't tell by the hue of my shirt here, we're going to be making it, simply calling it a PSL. Yes, it's a pumpkin spice latte inspired martini. Anyone that really knows me very well will tell you that I get overly excited about the return of pumpkin spice every year. My wife kind of gets bothered by it, but she also enjoys it. So we are going to be making a great boozy pumpkin spice martini later on tonight. I cannot wait.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. Sounds nice and fall-y. I feel like my jacket's quite fall. Your shirt's a little bit fall, and Mark is definitely feeling the pumpkin spice. So
yes.
Patty Jo Sloss is saying she's late to the chat. What's up with the chin scruff? Yes, I haven't shaved. The luxury of not shaving today. Sorry.
Yeah. A little edgy. I like it.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah, that's the first and last time anyone's described me as edgy, but I'll take it. Bernardo Torres is just down the road. Hello from Queens, New York. That's where we were last weekend.
We were.
Yeah, I moved into town for a few days, heading to Kentucky tomorrow.
Perfect. As am I. Where we will meet. I think it's time. I don't want you. You are so good with the intros.
Well, as I said a few moments ago, it is refreshing. It's refreshing on this show to be joined by someone we can genuinely call the future of horse racing television, and a real star, a natural, and is steeped in horse racing as the daughter of one of the most talented trainers who's plied his trade, not just in the United States, but in Europe and Hong Kong as well. But she's made a name for herself in her own right. She is, of course, Andie Biancone.
Hi.
Hey, girl.
Hey, Andie.
Hey, Andie.
Welcome.
Wow, Nick, that is so nice. I'm just the whole time I'm like, oh no, don't hype me up so much.
You've got to realize I'm very insincere. I mean absolutely none of it. But
I feel better.
It's great to see. Where are you going to be with us this weekend at Keeneland?
Yes, I'm here. I'm in Lexington. It's great.
Describe what's behind you. I see a lot of saddle towels.
Yes.
Are these some Wesley Ward trainees?
Yes. So I stay with my best friend Caitlin Dunn when I'm in town, and her and Riley Ward, Wesley's son, are dating. So this is their little wall of
that's cool.
No Nay Never. Oops.
Oh, that's great.
Judy. Yeah, it's their little office decor. So super fun. Yeah.
So you made your way from Gulfstream, thankfully got out of there before Hurricane Ian hit, or were you there when Hurricane Ian kind of made landfall?
I was there. It's fine. You know, us Floridians, it doesn't bother us. It's really fine. A little wind, a little rain. West Palm Beach, we were really fortunate because the hurricane didn't hit us as bad as it hit other parts, but definitely got the west coast of Florida pretty bad. We at Gulfstream, we were fortunate enough to resume racing the following day. We didn't even close the track or anything. We just kept running. And Sunday just got to the barn. I packed all my stuff to put it on the van, then breezed Oops, rode a couple others, finished packing for the horses, put it on the van, got ready to go to Gulfstream, went to Gulfstream, showered in the jocks room, got in a plane at 7:00, landed in Lexington at 11. And then, everything ran really smoothly. I was like, hey, this is going way too smooth. Something has to go wrong. And they were out of rental cars at Enterprise.
No.
So I ended up waiting 2 hours, and they got me a minivan. So
Mad Mom in a minivan, or just
I'm gonna start selling burritos out of the back.
There you go. Tamales.
Side hustle. Why not?
I saw Wayne Catalano in the morning, and he was like, "Did you have a kid?" I'm like, "I am a kid. What do you mean?" Yeah. So, but yeah, horses made it in safely the next morning, and I'm just happy to be at Keeneland, although it is a bit chilly.
Good to know, because Nick and I will both be flying out there tomorrow. Okay, we have to take it back. You said us Floridians, but you've spent, correct me if I'm wrong, because I couldn't believe this when you told me. You went to Arcadia High School. You spent a lot of time in California. Were you born in California?
I was born in Hong Kong, actually. So born in Hong Kong, and we moved to Arcadia when I was 3 and spent my whole life there. Graduated from Arcadia High School, did a year at Pasadena City College. And then I decided to move to Florida with my dad when he moved his string over there, and then galloped for him in the mornings, took classes at Palm Beach State College, transferred to University of Florida. I was working on a farm breaking babies there while I was doing my undergrad. But I didn't graduate because Patrick got sick. My dad got sick, so I had to go back and kind of take over more responsibility at the barn and stuff. Yeah.
You had to pack an awful lot into a pretty short space of time, Andie. But I've spotted that when you said us Floridians. It's obviously had a very fundamental effect on you, Florida.
Yeah, I love Florida. I think it's really just a place that resonates with me. I know you see some crazy stuff, Florida man and stuff, but it was really like a fresh start for my dad and I, moving out to Florida and regrowing our business together. So I think that's why it has such a special place in my heart.
You two sound very close. Coming from, the daughter of a trainer who's very close with her father. Have you and your dad always been very tight?
Super, super tight. Always been just his shadow. I think in the first grade, I was like looking back through some little folders and I saw a thing I wrote in the first grade, and it was like, everyone in the class was like, my dream is to be a firefighter, a doctor, a pop star. I'm like, my dream is to be my dad's assistant. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. Didn't have very high aspirations, but like at least I'm living my dream. So yeah.
No, to many people that would be very high aspirations. What you do is not easy. I think let's put that out there right now. Like you and I get to see it firsthand working with you, but you wake up very early in the morning to breeze horses for your father and other people, and then we'll be ready to work for, FanDuel TV now, what was TVG, in the afternoon, and then go do it again the next day. So give yourself a touch more credit, my dear. What you do is not easy, and not everybody could do it.
Thank you, Britt. It's fun. I mean, isn't work when you're having a good time? I know that sounds so cliche, but it doesn't feel like work. I mean, I get to wake up and ride horses all morning and then talk about horses all afternoon. It's like every crazy horse girl's dream job, right? So
I was going to ask about that. So when you're having those conversations with your dad, does it always feel like still father-daughter, or is it sometimes just colleagues kind of talking shop, or how's that sort of relationship, throughout the day?
It depends. We go back and forth all the time. There's also a lot of bickering. I mean, we're both very stubborn. So it's not always pretty. There's a ton of disagreements all the time, but we love each other at the end of the day, and it's that love that keeps our barn going. So yeah.
I mean, Andie, you're pretty well co-training these horses. What's the plan? What's the long-term plan?
Well, I always envisioned myself training since I was a little kid, so I don't really want to lose sight of that goal. But I also love working on FanDuel TV. I love all the people I've gotten to work with and meet, and just getting to look at amazing horse flesh every day and getting to talk to so many people. That's something that I love, and I think that's a part of me that I don't always get to show on the backside. I mean, my dad is always like, Andie, you're too nice. What are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I like saying good morning. I like talking to everybody. And sometimes in a barn, I'm not the most commanding person. I'd kind of just rather do something myself than ask somebody to do it. So, I don't know. I think eventually I would like to see myself training, but even if I'm just have 10 horses and I'm a galloping granny, I'd be happy. I don't need to make it big or anything.
You've got to.
I like that term, galloping granny.
For those that don't know, Patrick Biancone is French, so that was a lovely rendition of your father.
Oh my gosh, he's nuts.
But I wanted to ask, what is the most challenging part of managing those two worlds, between assisting your father galloping horses and then being an analyst and reporter on FanDuel TV?
I think just taking things one step at a time. Sometimes, on Sunday, for example, I was feeling extremely overwhelmed because I was like, okay, I've got to pack the rest of my stuff for the horses. I've got to make this flight. I've got to do a good job handicapping throughout the day. Handicap and then go, do the races all day. But if you just take things one step at a time, you will get through it. That's just something I tell myself all the time. Okay, don't think of it as the whole day. Just, okay, in the moment, what we're doing right now, and obviously time management. Just gotta, it's made me, I used to not have good time management maybe 4 years ago, but all this has really made me a more punctual person, I'd have to say. Yeah.
Andie, your father Patrick, he's as I said, had huge success on 3 continents. There's not many people who can say that. I'm just about old enough to remember Triptych. I'm not really old enough to remember the Art Wins. What do you think has made him what he is? What makes him such a successful trainer?
Attention to detail.
That didn't take you long. That was quick.
Yeah, he is the most detail-oriented person. I mean, a crackhead. He's nuts, but he is the most detail-oriented person I've ever met. I mean, he knows every single one of his horses as if he rides them himself, and it doesn't matter if he has 3 barns. Like when I was little, he had 3 barns at Keeneland, and he knows every single one of those horses as if he gets on them himself. And he's very detail-oriented. I mean, down to like Diamond Oops, for example, he's a stake horse, so he can't run with Lasix. So he's taught the majority of our stake horses to pee. Like they know they're potty trained. Like they pee before they go to the track. That way they don't get in a situation where because Lasix is a diuretic, so it'll make them pee. And then by the time they go to the race, they obviously have emptied themselves, but if you don't have Lasix, sometimes you don't have that luxury of making them peeing. And what if they go to the race and they have to pee? It could really hinder their performance. Mm-hmm. So, Oops is on a pee schedule. I don't know, it's weird to describe, but
that is a real attention to detail, though.
Yeah.
Something that you definitely don't hear talked about often. And that's, I think, something that you bring to, horse racing coverage is you bring a very unique perspective. Don't kill me, but this is such a great example of that. If we could pull up the first time gelding video. That I think went viral on.
I'll be taking a sip of wine for this.
Oh,
right? Okay, so this might take a moment to pull up, but we need to set the stage. So Mike Joyce, this is at Del Mar. Mike Joyce is on the desk with Gabby Gaudet, and you are reporting out in the field, right? So before we show this clip, because we're going to work to get it up there, what are you looking for? Just give people a lay of the land. Don't air it quite yet, but what's the lay of the land when you are working a race like this?
Looking at, anatomy. This is a group of, I'm pretty sure it was a claiming something, and it was all, geldings and colts, a little bit older, 3 and up. And there was a recently gelded Peter Miller trainee that I had an opportunity to speak to him about. So I just had a couple of comments about that. I kind of led myself in a direction I didn't mean to go, but I went with it, and I thought I was going to get fired.
Let's roll it and give people context.
Mike, I know this is a bit of a question mark, but I like the number 9 Mobu. I know that dirt, going back to the dirt and going 2 turns of the dirt is a bit of a question mark, but in John I trust, and this horse looked phenomenal in the paddock. He was all dappled out. I know they gave him a break 2 starts ago and then brought him back on the grass. And since then, he just seems to have been improving little by little. And I think today could be his day. There's a ton of speed inside, so it should set up well for the closers. That's another reason why I like the number 8 Continental Drive. And Peter Miller said that the gelding didn't really make a difference, but I think sometimes that can make a world of difference for horses just physically. I mean, believe it or not, testicles are one of the first things I look at when I look at these horses, and they can really be a bother to some horses. So getting rid of that, I mean, I'm sure that horse can improve, and he's very consistent nonetheless, Mike.
That's so good.
No, the best part came after.
It was the best part.
Oh, no, it's literally the best part, and I don't want to ruin it. Oh, can we bring it back?
Mike's best response in the world.
Wait,
here we go.
We might have to fast forward it.
Nuts.
Wait, no, go back. You got to go back a little bit.
See that?
It's very consistent nonetheless, Mike.
See that's why I love Andie Biancone. Her information is the nuts.
I love Mike.
Okay, Gabby's lost it. She has her microphone. She's just got a bad case of the giggles.
All right, so that's the full video. But you said you thought you were going to get fired after that?
Because I didn't mean to go. I had been pondering. I'm like, because I do look at their testicles, and I'm like, I wonder if I can talk about that. I don't like this horse because he's got one testicle that's a little smaller, and it's riding up, and it's clearly he's bothered by it. but I never bring it up. And then I just kind of talked myself into this corner where I ended up just saying it. And afterwards, I mean, my heart just sank straight to my butt. Like, I thought, I was like, this is the end. Like, it's over for me. I'm getting fired. Yeah. So, but it's true. I mean, testicles can really bother them sometimes if they're misshapen.
Point is the attention to detail you've taken from your father and put it into your work. And yes, that was funny because, you know, you don't hear the words testicles all that often on air because I don't think anybody's willing to really go that far.
It's a good word. It's a good word as well. You know.
Yeah.
More on our testicles, I say.
Anatomy, right? Yeah. So.
Are you enjoying?
I'm soaking this all up. This is fantastic. This is by no means a blooper, but I'm thinking about our blooper reel at the end of the season where we get especially like funny moments. And I think this is great. But you know what? You're absolutely right. First of all, anatomy of a horse is important and you are keen into those things. And I guess maybe we shouldn't be so shocked by, you know, what clearly is just an anatomical term and it has an effect on the way that horses race. So I think it's good that you bring it up.
Absolutely. They can be I think the world's problems, a lot of them could be solved if you could, you know.
Let's make this go viral. Let's do it.
I'm absolutely cracking up.
Physically.
Well, what I meant, no offense, I wasn't pointing towards you, Mark. Andie, are you enjoying your work on air?
Absolutely. I mean, I just feel so grateful working with you, Brittany, and I mean, our whole FanDuel TV family. It's just like beyond anything I've ever dreamt of for myself. When I left college, it was a really big, I mean, when I left initially, I was like, oh, I'm going to go back. I'm just doing this while my dad is having his kidney removed, going through cancer. Like, I will go back. And then we had Sole Volante at India, and I was like, okay, well, I can't really go back. We have like Kentucky Derby horses. This is like crazy. This is nothing I've ever imagined. And it was really hard. Like, I tried to take some online classes, but I just couldn't keep up with the curriculum. Like, I was really just, you know, you should never do anything half-assed. And I was really just not putting my full attention to it. So I decided to drop out. And that was really hard because I was like, great, like this, everyone has told me my whole life that I really need to finish this degree. And then I was like, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? Like, I'll make $800 a week for the rest of my life, like being an assistant and exercising horses. Like, perfect. That's fine. I don't care. So,
because you're doing what you love.
Exactly. So I was like,
that's the big point here.
Yeah. So I was like, does it matter? No. And then just, I guess life just takes you the way you're meant to be. And like I said, I would have never imagined myself doing something like this. And I just feel so grateful getting to meet the people that I get to meet every day and work amongst you guys. It's been an amazing learning opportunity and growth. And I feel a lot of personal growth, and that's just the best feeling.
I think everyone in racing all around the world really cleaves to those stories of when a person and a horse really have a special connection. And watching you with Diamond Dukes in particular over the last couple of years has been, I think, infectious for everybody who's witnessed it. Now, I read he did you had mentioned he worked earlier, Diamond Dukes worked earlier in the week. That was the first work since the July, was it?
Yeah, well, it was more of a 2-minute lick. So we just like did 14s the first half a mile, and then I let him roll the last half a mile nice and easy. And I think we're prepping for an allowance at the end of the month at Keeneland on the grass. There's an allowance here, and there's an allowance on the grass for him at Keeneland at the end of the month, or an allowance on the undercard of the Friday of Breeders' Cup on the dirt. So we're kind of just eyeing those. You know, he's older now, but he's just the most special horse I've ever been around in my whole life. And I'm just so lucky to even be around him. Even besides any of his achievements, him as a person or as a horse, it's just, he's amazing because he has overcome so much to get where he is.
Elaborate on that.
So, we've had the whole family. So he was a homebred, Kinhoy, the Diamond 100 Connections. They bred him. We tried to sell him as a weanling. He was a no bid at the Keeneland weanling sale. I mean, like, nobody RNA'd for like the bottom. He was so ugly. And so we kept him. Caitlin's dad, Kieran Dunn, broke him at Wavertree, said it was the worst horse he's ever broke in his life, like worst behaved, horrible, would drop people left and right. Came to us. He was this lanky, screaming, misbehaved horse. And that's how we got his name, Oops, because he's like an accident. Like that one was the accident. And when he started working, he became very impressive. And, you know, he ended up winning quite a few stakes as a 2-year-old. And we had Kentucky Derby hopes for him. And then one day he was galloping on like a wet, fast track. He loves the mud. And he just started jumping around and he completely tore his digital superflexor tendon, which is like, it's rare. Like you rarely see them tear that specific tendon. And our vets literally had a really bleak prognosis for him. They said this horse will never see a racetrack again. If he does, he will never be of the same caliber, but there's a very slim chance he makes it back. And my dad, Kieran Dunn, Ken Hoy, they gave him a year. Well, the first 6 months, and they tried to get him back to the races and he wasn't ready. So they gave him even more time, yelled at him. In total, over a year off. Mm-hmm. And although all the connections did a fantastic job rehabbing him, doing what they needed to do to get him back, the reason why Oops is here and has made close to $2 million today is just his will to do this job. Like, he loves what he does. He loves to be number one. He walks around like he thinks he's the president. He's like, I'm the president. I'm number one. He has no respect for me. I mean, like, there's no telling that horse what to do. He just tolerates me. He's like, that's my mom. Like, that's it. But like, there's no respect there. But you know, it's really his will and his heart that has made him such a good horse and put him where he is. Because I've seen horses who have injuries that are not even, you couldn't even compare them to his, and they don't ever make it back. And that's because they don't have that same heart.
Does he still have that temperament that he had when he first came to the barn? Is he still a wild child, or how is his personality now?
He's pretty good as long as he's not fresh, but he does drop me like once a year. Like, I've been galloping him for 3 years and he's dropped me 3 times all the same way. So he has broken my nose one time. So he does throw shapes. So oops. Yeah.
Oopsie. I think that's really special, though. You're sharing with us a very unique relationship that a lot of people do not have with these incredible equine athletes. You know, we're lucky enough to watch what they do on display, but that's behind the scenes insight as to what makes a horse tick. And you're right. You can't train that into a horse, right? I mean, you've seen it with so many. You can't train the heart and the will to win, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's something that they're born with, and it just goes to show how much these horses, I mean, obviously you have some who don't do well at it and we find them different homes or whatever, but the horses at that high caliber, like, this is what they love to do. This is what they live for. He lives for that competition and has such a competitive fighting spirit, you know? So special.
Andie, we're getting a lot of questions asking who you like in the Breeders' Cup races this year. Just this far out, we've got a whole load of prep races this weekend in Keeneland and Santa Anita. What horses are you putting your hopes on? Flightline is not an acceptable answer.
Flightline is not an acceptable answer. I mean, you know, it's going to be really, I'm excited to see the distaff. I mean, I'm really excited. I think the Spinsters this weekend, that's one of my favorites. I mean, I remember when Latruska won the Spinster last fall. That was my first season working for TVG, and that was electric. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think that was my favorite race of the fall meet last year. So it's going to be really exciting to see that race again. And I'm always rooting for the ladies. So definitely excited for the distaff.
Yeah, it looks a good race,
right?
As well.
Malafat.
Yeah, looking at the entries here. Yeah, Army Wife, Latruska, Malafat, Played Hard, Princess of Cara, and She Dares the Devil. So a couple of Kentucky Oaks winners in there, and Latruska.
It's going to be really exciting. I love to and especially old hard knocking fillies, like, there's nothing tougher than those older mares. I swear, they're something else, you know, even more so than the older colts. I feel like they're just something special.
I think that's why people really bonded with Midnight Bizou, Beholders, and Yada, you know, the older mares. She's not an older mare yet, but what about your 2-year-old filly, Infinite Diamond, aka Finny, in the Alcibiades?
Finny, I'm very excited for her. I love that she drew the 8 post position. I mean, perfect. She's actually been really good at Keeneland. Like when I took her to Del Mar, she just never settled down. She was supposed to run that first week I brought her there, and she didn't get in for like two other, like she didn't get into the maiden for 2 weeks, so she just had to keep training, and she was absolutely so rank. Like my knees got burned every day. She was trying to run off every day. And we were debating running her. She's very cute. She's very sweet, just very high energy. Like she's out of her dams by Reiki. So that's where that little craziness comes in. But she's more settled at Keeneland than she was at Del Mar. She's been just taking everything in stride, and she's gained a lot of, I think she has a sense of purpose after she won her last race. Sometimes it's weird. Babies, sometimes they don't know what's going on, and then they run their first race or they win, and you see a change in them. They're like, oh, this is why we're running in circles every morning. You know, they actually do comprehend that they have a purpose. Yeah.
I mean, her win last out was so impressive. And it was really fun to get because it was on TVG or FanDuel TV at Gulfstream Park, and they had a camera on Miss Andie Biancone during the running of the race. I will say you don't embarrass yourself like I do.
It depends on the horse. Like, honestly, Oops will make me ugly cry. If he's second, I'm like, oh my God. Second, like, but I feel it. I mean, it's so much fun to root for your horses, especially, Brittany, having horses, being so close with your dad. It's really special. Yeah.
Out of this. Mark, I'm thirsty, and I feel like because Andie's got a drink, maybe we could bring the drink in a little bit earlier, and then chat through that. What is that? It looks like rosé, by the way.
It looks nice.
It's some kind of rosé. I don't know. Riley Ward poured it for me. He was like, "Wait, it's called Converse Cocktails and Conversation."
He's right.
You need a drink. I was like, okay.
He's right.
Well,
Hang on.
Father on. Yeah, we've had his father on enough times, and he always has the. Are you calling?
Yeah, just getting.
Great.
Hi, yeah.
Room service.
Room 428. Can I get a large Chablis, please? Yeah. Thanks very much. Bye.
I love that. You're like Bo Derek.
Wow.
You're gonna have your drink brought in.
Well, my boss
guys,
told me I could have a drink while in his former office, but I didn't have time to go get it. But he did give me approval for that.
Okay. All right. We have to keep that in mind for future episodes. But we were just talking about the ladies in horse racing, but do we remember these ladies, the Spice Girls from the late 90s? How could we forget? Nick already knows what's happening here.
Spice Girls, yeah.
So how could we forget this iconic girl group that really gave the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and all those other boy bands a run for their money? Now, I just want to see, Nick, can you name all the Spice Girls? Not their actual names, but the sporty. I'll give you one.
Yeah,
Sporty Spice.
I'm old enough, Mark. Yeah, I'm old enough. So from the left, you've got Posh Spice, Baby Spice, Gary Spice, Ginger Spice, and Sporty Spice.
That was fast.
I mean, they are British. You should know.
Yeah. I thought it was going to take him a little bit longer than that, but well done. I wish I had a prize to give you, but I don't. Just my applaud. But so 20 years later now, there's a whole different Spice that is taking the world by storm. It has its own Twitter handle. It has its own verified Instagram account with thousands of followers. And since its inception in 2003, it has been sold 500 million times. Of course, we are talking about the pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks. I totally geek out over pumpkin spice, way too much so. My wife knows this. I start looking forward to it in early July. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but pumpkin spice has been released earlier and earlier. Now it's like the third week of August. So what's interesting is that Peter Dukes, who was the director of espresso beverages at Starbucks back in 2001, he was kind of charged with this idea of creating a fall-based drink to really stand up to the popularity of some of their winter warmers, things like peppermint mocha that was very popular at the time. And so they basically had to create what would be this new fall beverage for Starbucks. And the front runners were things like cinnamon and caramel, maybe even apple was in there. But eventually they had this idea to do pumpkin, but pumpkin almost was passed upon. So the pumpkin spice latte was almost the flavor that never was. Thank goodness the powers that be in Starbucks did go ahead and greenlight it, because this has become something that almost signals the start of fall. And it definitely does for me. So I would be remiss if we didn't make a pumpkin inspired drink here on Cocktails and Conversation for our last virtual show of the season. Andie, do you like pumpkin spice lattes?
Love it. I mean, love them. Who doesn't? Who doesn't love them?
Yeah, right. And now they have a pumpkin cold foam cold brew, which is delicious. I go ham on the pumpkin loaf, the pumpkin muffin, the scone. All right, I'm gonna stop.
Julie's with you. She's already had 2 pumpkin spice lattes.
You can't get drunk on any of that stuff. Now let's get to the
good stuff. All right. So for our pumpkin spice inspired martini, we're calling it simply PSL because that is the kind of the moniker for the pumpkin spice latte. We're going to start with a homemade pumpkin spice syrup. Don't get me wrong, I've tried to go to Starbucks and see if they'll sell me a jug of this stuff, and they're not really having it. So I had to figure out how to do this at home. So what are pumpkin spices, right? Because if you get any number of pumpkin spice things around the fall time, you're either going to get something that tastes very much like pumpkin, or you'll get something that doesn't taste like pumpkin at all, but that's actually very forward in cinnamon, clove, and ginger, which essentially are those pumpkin spices, the things that you would add to a pumpkin pie to make it taste more seasonal. What I love about pumpkin spice syrup at Starbucks is that it really balances the pumpkin flavor with the spice. So how do we make our own pumpkin spice syrup? Well, essentially, you want to start with those spices. So I like using whole cinnamon, some whole clove, and allspice. One of the first things that you want to do is muddle those spices with a mortar and pestle. The reason for that is that you're increasing the surface area, so you have more contact with the syrup as you're making it. So muddle those spices. Anytime we're using spices in cocktails or in a syrup, you want to make sure you toast them. By toasting the spices in a dry pan, you help to bring out the aromas and bring out the flavors. So you muddle your spices, you toast them, and then you'll start building your syrup on top. Now, because we're going to add some pumpkin puree later on, we want a rich syrup. So we're going to do something about like 1 part sugar to 3/4 part water. So if you're doing 1 cup of sugar, do about 3/4 of a cup of water. Let that kind of come to a simmer, cook a little bit, and then take it off the heat and whisk in some pumpkin puree and some freshly chopped ginger. And then if you can, let that sit overnight. All those beautiful flavors are going to marry and infuse. You strain it the next day, and you have your pumpkin spice syrup. So we're going to start our cocktail off with 1 ounce of pumpkin spice. Do you think you would ever make this syrup at home, Nick?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah. I mean, it's delicious. And again, you get those flavors. You get the pumpkin, but you also get the other flavors. The ginger comes through really nicely as well. Okay. Now, we definitely want a creamy element here. So this is going to be sort of a dessert cocktail. So we're going to take some heavy cream and add 1 ounce of that as well.
This is essentially a dessert.
Yeah, this is definitely a dessert cocktail, which I don't make too many of those on the show, but I feel like with these flavors, we don't want to go the direction of citrus, especially with the pumpkin. I think that's going to clash a bit. One thing that we are going to do, though, to help balance out some of the sweetness, remember, you can either balance sweetness out with acidity or with bitterness. So we're going to add some Amaro here. So this is Averna, a really, really nice type of Amaro. Remember that Amaros are essentially bitter digestifs. They've been infused with all sorts of bitter barks, roots, and herbs, and flavored with all sorts of spices and other botanicals. So that bitter element is going to help to offset some of the sweet flavors that we have in the rest of the cocktail. Let's do a half an ounce.
Is it like a Fernet Branca, that type of thing, is it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Fernet Branca, the only thing is that I think that's a very mentholated Amaro. So you get a lot of that mint taste. It's a little bit more aggressive. Something like Averna or Amaro Montenegro, Amaro Lucano, those might be a little bit softer. Amaro Nonino too. But yes, exactly. It falls in that same line.
But it's like heavy spice.
Yeah. Believe it or not, you know what also is actually an Amaro? And at a certain point, they started rebranding to try to kind of get some more favor with mixologists is Jägermeister. Jägermeister is an Amaro. So I know we tend to think Jaeger, and Red Bull, but you can essentially use that in a cocktail like this, and it would still work out very nicely.
The
Okay.
Jaeger bomb.
The Jaeger bomb is the single most evil invention
Disgusting.
ever.
Yeah, it's right up there. It's right up there. It brings me back, to some pretty interesting memories from my 20s. Anyway, we are going to move on. We need a latte element to this cocktail, right? We need some coffee. So instead of adding just plain coffee, I'm going to be using this coffee whiskey. This is really, really good stuff. It's called First Light. This is based in San Diego. So I don't know if you've heard of it, Brittany. So far, but it's a relatively new brand.
I've heard of a peanut butter whiskey, but not a coffee whiskey.
Right, Screwball. So this is really, really good. I actually like this a lot more than Screwball.
Okay.
It uses a fresh coffee concentrate. It is decaf, so don't worry, you can have this at night. It's not going to keep you up. So coffee extract is going in there, as well as some organic agave nectar for a touch of sweetness.
Nice.
And it's available in a regular coffee whiskey or dark roast as well. So this is going to add a really fun coffee element to our cocktail here, which we need for the PSL, for the pumpkin spice latte. So let's do 3/4 of an ounce. And we need a little bit more booze. So we're going to add 1 ounce of Maker's Mark. Of course, we love our makers here. There's going to be a whole bunch of Maker's Mark 1 month from now in Keeland, I'm sure. Hopefully some Tory cups.
Somebody's requesting that you don't put too much alcohol and save some for them. Creole bloodstock.
Okay. Oh, in the pumpkin spice latte?
Yeah, well, because they want you to save some alcohol for them.
Okay. I could do that. We didn't go crazy here. We did 1 ounce of Maker's Mark, 1 ounce of that First Light coffee whiskey. And then we've got our pumpkin spice, our cream, and Amaro. We're going to give this a good shake, and then we're going to fine strain it into a chilled coupe glass. So let's add some ice.
Somebody's just asked if I'm wearing my pajama top.
I feel like this would be a good brunch thing too. Don't brunch.
Absolutely.
Like Irish coffee.
Of course. Yeah, and that's, I mean, one of the things I love brands like this because you can have this for brunch and it makes sense. You can also have this as a nightcap in something like maybe a Black Manhattan, something that's more on the digestif kind of stirred cocktail side. But yeah, absolutely.
You might find like that at p.m. So I'm more like day drinking if I drink. So that's why I like brunch.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it absolutely could work.
Sure.
Let's see if we get like a nice. Okay, it's kind of a pale pumpkin color here.
It matches your shirt.
But I think
Yeah,
it does.
earthy.
I think the
Very
flavors are going to be really, really nice though. And of course, we have to finish off with some actual pumpkin spice. Little topper here. I'm not going to do whipped cream. I'm not going to go that crazy. But we will just sprinkle that delicately on top. It almost looks like a pumpkin spice latte. I'm sure this is going to hit a little differently. Yep. This is our PSL.
That is very smart.
Beautiful.
Cheers, guys.
You are clever.
Okay, let's see. Oh my God. That's good.
I don't think he's ever been that excited about one of his cocktails before.
Starbucks.
Yeah, that's really good. You got to try this recipe out. So cheers to the return of pumpkin spice. I think I have a graphic for pumpkin spice. There we go. And I think I've got a
You should send it to Starbucks.
This is a millennial eggnog, isn't it?
Basically. No, it does work really nicely. You get the pumpkin, you get the spice, you get a little bit of the coffee. It's not too sweet, which I like too. I mean, it's definitely a dessert drink, but it's not over the top. But cheers, guys, to the return of fall. Cheers to you, Andie.
My drink will come at some point.
It will.
Mark, what was the second cocktail you made me the other day? After the
so I made Nick a drink called Dark Sky, which is inspired by one of the pieces at Baccarat, which actually is this kind of dark foreboding cloud on top of this kind of white background. So it's a lot going on. Actually, it was rye whiskey for some spice, a little Oloroso sherry. So Oloroso sherry is oxidized, so you get a nice nuttiness there. And then it was a cinnamon oat milk syrup, lime juice, some ginger beer, and a dark rum float.
It was very nice, and really nice.
Cool.
Yeah. That very interesting gentleman next to me who seemed interested in how Mark and I had met one another. And was talking to us about cocktails and conversation. I tried to keep the conversation going, but he was more interested in chatting to his much younger companion on his right.
Yeah. He did say he was going to look you up, though.
Yes.
I mean, hopefully that just means on the internet. I mean, whatever. I don't know.
Look him up. It'll be what, seven-time leading broadcaster Nick Luck. Andie, if you want to learn from anybody, learn.
No,
I'll be just trying to peek into the NBC tent. I'll just be if you need yay, I'll be there.
I think Andie's got more than enough mentors and people to inspire you, Andie, at FanDuel. Some of my favorite people, and Brittany.
Absolutely. Yeah. All the best.
Mike, got to give him a shout out, right?
Mm-hmm.
How tough? Because I know Mike took you under his wing when you first came in. What was that like for you?
It was great, except he kept making me watch videos of myself, and that made me want to fling myself off the balcony many times. Like, it's just really painful to watch. Like, but Mike has always been very supportive. He's like, I don't know, I can be a bit self-deprecating, so he's kind of like, he's like, no, you're okay, keep going. I'm like, I suck. So, you know, it's been nice. He's great. Always has the best critique ever.
He's a very nice man and a very good TV presenter.
He's in this right here. He's on air right now. So what do we have to look forward from you this weekend? What will your role be opening weekend at Keeneland? Both on air and at the barn.
So at the barn, just don't fall off, don't get run off with, pick up the poop. Very, that chill duties. My dad is flying in tonight, so he'll be here to saddle Infinite Diamond on Friday, and he'll be there to breeze me and Diamond Wow on Sunday. So that'll be nice. And then my role for FanDuel TV will be doing a lot of pony reporting. We've got a great pony named Cinch who's been helping us out in the mornings. He's actually owned by Mary Ellett. She's a Flying Start graduate and just an overall incredible human. And her pony is equally as incredible. So I'm very excited to be riding him and getting to see some of this horse flesh up close.
Mm-hmm.
That role, very few people have perfected it, and you do it incredibly well. The horseback reporting. Just give us an indication as to when you think it really works well, and what people may not see just kind of watching on as to what you have to do to prepare yourself well for it.
There was just tiny details, watching horses warm up, how they behave when they get closer to the gate. You get some more in-depth information just by being observant of those things. I remember last year, I forget the name of the race during the spring meet, but Nashville was like the heavy favorite. The track was really sloppy, and Nashville warming up, he hated the sloppy track. You could just tell by the way he was galloping over it. He was just not happy about it. And then Prevalence just left the pony, grabbed the bit, loved the sloppy track. And I was like, oh, that's easy. Like, I'm not going to bet Nashville. I'm going to go with Prevalence. And he won. So, like, specific things like that, I feel like the pony is a huge aid. You just get to see the horses for longer. I mean, even in general, some paddocks are more limiting than others. Like Keeneland, for example, I feel like I can rely a lot more on my eye because the paddock is so big, it's huge. I have so much time to look at the horses. At Del Mar, it can be a little bit limiting. So the pony, just getting to see the horses on the track for so much longer was very helpful. And also, of course, for post-race interviews, I mean, I think I'll remember my interview with Flavian and Flightline post-Pacific Classic. I think I'll remember that for the rest of my life. I mean, I was choking back tears as I was interviewing him. The energy was it was indescribable.
And what's he like up close, that horse, when you ride right up close to him? What's he like as a physical?
I mean, he's got such a presence that it'll just knock your socks off. I mean, he cost $1 million as a yearling, so obviously conformation-wise, he's excellent. But more beyond his conformation, just his presence. He has a commanding presence. The way he looks up and looks out, I mean, you just feel something very special that radiates off of him. So I think that's my favorite part about him. Yeah.
And you have that unique perspective. It's something, Donna Brothers, she gets that unique perspective on the NBC shows right after the race. And I think she would even say, speaking to the jockey immediately after a big win, like a Triple Crown or something of that nature, is pretty special. And very, as Nick mentioned, very, very few people can do it, and very few people can do it well. So, and I'm sure that's probably, I don't know, is that one of your favorite parts of the job, is getting to be aboard the horses and looking at them beforehand and speaking to the jockeys rather than being on your feet reporting?
I love both aspects. I love being in the paddock and reporting and being in the midst of everything in the crowd, but I also love being out on the track and just having it be me and the pony and getting those first moments when jockeys come back and you see those immediate reactions. And it's just such a privilege. It really is. It's very, very special.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Andie, for us, just the technical aspect of it, Brittany and I have attempted for years to talk and listen at the same time, and to talk, listen, hold your microphone and ride a horse at the same time is complete anathema to me. So full respect to all of you who do it.
Oh, thank you. I guess if you do something every day, it just becomes second nature. So the horse riding bit is the easiest part for me. Yeah.
Well, you've been a great asset to the team. Best of luck with Infinite Diamond this weekend. I know you're going to be very, very busy. Finney in the Grade 1 Darley Alcibiades. Andie, we will see you in Keeneland very, very soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
See you, Andie.
Cheers,
see you tomorrow or the weekend.
Bye. See you.
Take care.
Andie Biancone, the future of the sport, as Nick Luck would say. And she is very self-deprecating. I've gotten to know her very well, and she constantly knocks herself, but she needs to give herself more praise because she's learned very, very quickly. And I think, honestly, she has made leaps and bounds in a short amount of time. I don't know about you, but when I first started, it took me a long time to even feel somewhat comfortable with that mic in my hand.
Yeah. No, I was pretty good straight away, to be honest. But yeah. I'm kidding.
Like Mark. I have to bounce, you guys.
Yeah, I've got to go as well. I've got a ticket to see Funny Girl.
We all
I've got
have
another
things
pumpkin spice martini to make. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you do. Oh, by the way, I want to make sure we got our sponsor plug. Breeders' Cup canned cocktail sponsor, Day Chaser.
Day Chaser. So again, if you don't have the time to put together a craft cocktail at home, it's so easy to still have a great quality beverage. So Day Chaser uses fresh juice. It's only 100 calories, and they've got fantastic flavors. Tequila and grapefruit, one of my favorites, the tequila and spicy mango. But you've got some very kind of straightforward flavors too, vodka, lime, soda. So these are things that are so approachable, it's delicious, and most importantly, it's easy.
Awesome.
We like that. Right? Thank you all. When is our next show? Not remote.
No. I mean, on our TV show.
Oh, TV show, Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday, both on CNBC, yes?
Yes. And then the next time we will have a cocktails and conversation show. It will be Thursday of Breeders' Cup week. We will be together and try and corral as many people as we can to talk about all those Breeders' Cup runners. It is right around the corner. I cannot believe it. Thanks, guys.
We need a time for the show at the weekend, which I'm just pulling up for you now. And it
5,
is,
right?
Is it 5 both days? Yes. 5 till 6 both days, Saturday and Sunday, October 8th and 9th on CNBC. The final round of Breeders' Cup Challenge Series Win and You're In races on this or on our network. Yeah, thank you both. It's been lovely to see you both in person in the last week. It's been honestly, I feel like I've been away from home forever, and it does sugar the pill significantly when I can hang out with you guys. So thank you.
Oh, it's great to see you, Nick.
That was very sweet. What a note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Sometimes I'm nice.
Sometimes. I'll see you tomorrow, Nick. Mark, I hope I can have a drink made by you at the Baccarat Hotel soon enough. But until then, enjoy your
We're going to make it happen.
Latte.
Take care.
Thank you. I will. Cheers, guys.